Do you have any idea who I am? Richard Voss's voice, a low rumble that quickly escalated into a roar, cut through the sophisticated hum of the Velvet Laurel. He slammed his pristine linen napkin onto the impeccably white tablecloth, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the chandelier-lit dining room. One clumsy spill, one ruined designer vest, one waitress on the brink of losing everything, or so it seemed. But what Richard didn't know, what no one in that opulent room suspected, was that she wasn't about to lose anything. In fact, she was already holding the metaphorical handcuffs, just waiting for the perfect, most deliciously inconvenient moment to click them shut around his wrists. This wasn't just a spilled coffee. It was the prologue to a reckoning. The Velvet Laurel isn't just a restaurant. It's an institution, a gilded cage for the city's elite, where whispered deals are made over perfectly seared scallops, and the clinking of champagne flutes serves as a soundtrack to ambition. Imagine a place where the butter isn't just served, it's whipped tableside with a flourish, where every dish is a work of art, and the cheapest entree could easily cover a month's rent for most working families. Its exclusivity personified, a sanctuary for those who believe their net worth grants them a divine right to special treatment. And at the heart of this gilded world, 5 nights a week, sat Richard Voss. Richard wasn't just wealthy, he was filthy rich. A self-made titan who'd clawed his way to the top of the tech world before pivoting with ruthless efficiency into real estate. He was the kind of man whose presence alone seemed to inflate the prices of everything around him. The staff, a meticulously trained army of silent servers and attentive hosts, knew him well. They whispered stories of his legendary stinginess, his almost pathological refusal to tip more than a paltry 10%. His mantra, often muttered loud enough to be overheard, was a chilling indictment of their very existence. If they wanted more money, they should have worked harder. It was a philosophy steeped in contempt, a belief that anyone serving him was by definition beneath him. Tonight, however, Richard was practically radiating self-satisfaction. He was celebrating. Not just any celebration, but the final triumphant clearing of zoning for his newest skyscraper project. A monolithic testament to his ego and ambition that promised to add another cool $100 million to his already overflowing offshore accounts. He strode into the Velvet Laurel with the swagger of a conqueror, his navy Brioni suit custom-tailored to perfection, practically shimmering under the soft lights. His Italian calfskin shoes, polished to a mirror sheen, clicked confidently on the polished marble floors. But it wasn't just his expensive attire that announced his arrival. It was the palpable aura of arrogance, a scent as distinct and overpowering as the truffle oil wafting from the kitchen. It clung to him like a second skin, a warning to all who dared to cross his path. Enter Anna Martinez. At 24, Anna was a whirlwind of quiet determination, a young woman juggling more responsibilities than most people twice her age. Her days were a relentless cycle of double shifts at the Velvet Laurel, serving demanding patrons like Richard Voss, followed by late nights poring over textbooks. Hidden behind the hostess stand, tucked away from prying eyes, was her secret weapon, a stack of constitutional law flashcards. She wasn't just working, she was fighting for her future, paying her own tuition at state law, a dream she clung to with fierce tenacity. Every spare dollar, every extra shift went not just towards her education, but also towards sending much-needed grocery money home to her mom, a silent testament to her unwavering loyalty and love. While others gossiped about celebrity sightings or the latest market trends, Anna was memorizing the nuances of the Fourth Amendment, dissecting legal precedents between orders of foie gras and vintage wine. Most guests never bothered to learn her last name. Some, like Richard, never even bothered to learn her first. To him, She was just another nameless, faceless cog in the machinery of his opulent lifestyle. He had no idea she was about to become the most important name he'd ever forget. The air in the Velvet Laurel was thick with the murmur of polite conversation and the delicate clinking of silverware. Anna, a picture of focused grace, navigated the crowded dining room with the practiced ease of a tightrope walker. On her silver tray, a precarious ballet of porcelain and liquid, a single espresso, a sparkling water, and a piping hot Americano. The Americano, in its fragile artisanal cup, probably cost more than Anna earned in an hour, a stark reminder of the economic chasm separating her from her clientele. She rounded a corner, her eyes scanning for her table, her mind perhaps already drifting to Article 3 of the Constitution. Suddenly a blur of motion. A junior waiter rushing past with a stack of empty plates misjudged his distance, a sharp bump to her elbow. Time seemed to slow. The Americano, a dark, steaming vortex, tilted precariously. An arc of rich brown liquid like a slow-motion catastrophe launched itself from the cup. Splash! It landed with sickening precision directly onto Richard Voss's chest, soaking the front of his exquisite silk vest. The vest, the very one he'd been bragging about just moments before, the one he claimed was hand-stitched by blind nuns in Milan, a detail he always delivered with a sneer, as if the nuns' supposed infirmity somehow enhanced its value, was now a canvas of dark, spreading coffee. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Conversations died. Phones once held aloft to capture candid moments of opulence lowered in unison. Forks midair on their journey to open mouths froze. The entire restaurant held its breath, a silent audience to the impending storm. Richard Voss, a man whose composure was usually as unyielding as his offshore bank accounts, erupted. He shot to his feet with such force that his heavy dining chair skidded backward, scraping loudly against the polished floor. Clumsy little... His voice, initially a choked gasp of outrage, quickly rose to a furious crescendo, cracking like a whip through the stunned silence. "Do you understand what you've done? This is a $6,000 vest." He gestured wildly at the ruined garment, his face contorted in a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "And my shoes, look at my shoes." He pointed a trembling finger at the pristine calfskin, now speckled with dark drops of coffee, as if they too were sentient beings, suffering an unbearable indignity. Anna, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, was already a blur of motion. "Sir, I'm so sorry," she stammered, crouching quickly, a pristine white napkin clutched in her hand, attempting to dab at the spreading stain. "We'll cover the cleaning, of course. Absolutely everything." Her voice was a soft apology, a desperate plea for de-escalation, but it was lost in the torrent of his rage. Richard snorted a sound of pure disdain. "You'll cover nothing. You'll be gone before the espresso even cools." His eyes, blazing with contempt, snapped towards Luis, the restaurant manager, who had materialized beside them, his face a portrait of quiet desperation. Luis was a soft-spoken man, kind and fair, but utterly beholden to the whims of his most lucrative patrons. "Fire her. Now. I want her out of my sight. Get her out." Luis hesitated, caught between a rock and a very expensive hard place. Anna was more than just a waitress. She was one of his best, the one who remembered every obscure allergy, the one who patiently tutored new hires during slow shifts, the one who often stayed late to help with inventory. But Richard Voss represented 6 figures in annual revenue, a significant portion of the Velvet Laurel's bottom line. Luis looked at Anna, his gentle eyes filled with a silent plea, a desperate apology for the impossible position he was in. He knew, and Anna knew, that his job was on the line too. Richard, sensing Anna's quiet defiance, leaned closer, his voice dropping to a syrupy, menacing whisper thick with contempt. "People like you never learn, do they? That's why you're stuck fetching coffee. This is your lot in life." He savored the words, twisting the knife. Anna straightened slowly, her cheeks flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. But her voice, when it came, was remarkably level, a quiet counterpoint to his booming rage. "I'm also studying law, sir. And mistakes happen to everyone, even billionaires." The words hung in the air, a tiny defiant spark in the opulent room. The entire dining room held its breath collectively, sensing the shift in the power dynamic. Richard's face, already dark with anger, deepened to a thunderous crimson. "Law!" He barked out a laugh, loud and sharp, devoid of any genuine mirth. It was a laugh designed to belittle, to dismiss. "Sweetheart, the only court you'll ever see is the unemployment line." He punctuated the insult with a dismissive wave of his hand, confident in his absolute power. He had no idea how spectacularly wrong he was. The stage was set, the trap sprung, and Anna, calm amidst the storm, was merely waiting for her cue. What Richard Voss didn't know, couldn't possibly have conceived in his self-important worldview, was that Anna's badge tonight wasn't just a velvet apron and a polite smile. It was a sophisticated piece of surveillance equipment, a covert recording device humming quietly beneath her uniform. For 3 grueling months, Anna Martinez hadn't just been serving tables. She'd been serving justice. Her seemingly humble internship with the district attorney's office had taken an unexpected high-stakes turn, morphing into an undercover sting operation targeting none other than Richard Voss. The DA's office had initially flagged Voss's name during a routine audit, noticing a suspiciously convoluted paper trail. His tech empire, it turned out, was intricately woven with shell corporations, funneling vast sums of cash through a labyrinth of offshore accounts. The real kicker: many of these shell corporations were registered to the very same LLC that owned the Velvet Laurel. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a glaring red flag suggesting a convenient nexus for money laundering and illicit financial activities right under the noses of the city's elite. Anna, with her sharp mind and unassuming demeanor, had been the perfect candidate. Who would suspect the quiet, diligent waitress of being a key player in a major financial investigation? Every single receipt, every cash payment, every inflated service charge that somehow never quite made its way into the staff's pooled tips. She'd meticulously photographed it, documented it, and cross-referenced it. Her phone, seemingly just a personal device, was a treasure trove of evidence, a digital ledger of Richard Voss's criminal enterprise. She had captured audio recordings of his veiled threats to staff, his boastful confessions of tax evasion, and even snippets of conversations where he openly discussed his illicit financial maneuvers, believing himself untouchable within the confines of his exclusive haunt. The culmination of her relentless work had arrived that very morning. Her supervisor, a formidable and highly respected figure in the legal community, Judge Martinez, her own mother, had signed the warrant. Not just any warrant, but a comprehensive document authorizing the arrest of Richard Voss on multiple felony charges and a simultaneous raid on his corporate offices. The DA's team had been meticulously planning this takedown, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect justification. All Anna needed was one public outburst, one undeniable display of his characteristic arrogance and intimidation to justify the immediate arrest on harassment and intimidation charges. This would provide the necessary public spectacle, drawing attention away from the financial raid happening concurrently upstairs in his corporate penthouse, allowing the Financial Crimes Unit to secure crucial documents and servers before they could be destroyed. So when Richard Voss, red-faced and sputtering, demanded her immediate dismissal, Anna didn't just hear an insult. She heard the final piece of her carefully constructed trap snapping into place. She simply nodded, a small, almost imperceptible gesture, a silent acknowledgement of her role in his downfall. Then, with a calm that belied the storm raging inside her, she took a single step back, subtly reached into her apron pocket, and tapped twice on her phone. Signal sent. The gears of justice set in motion months ago were now grinding towards their inevitable conclusion. Richard Voss's carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down, and he had no one to blame but himself. The coffee stain was just the first drop. The velvet curtains, heavy and opulent, that framed the entrance to the Velvet Laurel, parted with a whisper, not a grand flourish. Through them glided two figures, seemingly inconspicuous like ghosts in expensive suits. They moved with a quiet efficiency that instantly set them apart from the usual clientele. One of them, a tall woman with an unreadable expression, flashed a badge not at Anna, but subtly towards the stunned Luis, who instinctively paled. The words, delivered in a low, authoritative voice, cut through the residual tension in the room like a scalpel. "Richard Voss, you're under arrest for tax evasion, labor code violations, and intimidation of a witness." Richard's sneer, a permanent fixture on his face, collapsed instantly, replaced by a look of bewildered disbelief. His furious bluster evaporated, leaving him sputtering like a punctured tire. "Under arrest? What are you talking about? This is insane. Intimidation of a witness. What witness?" He looked wildly around the room, his eyes darting from face to face, searching for some explanation, some hidden accuser. He couldn't fathom that the witness was standing right in front of him. Anna, with a slow, deliberate grace that commanded the attention of everyone in the room, began to untie her apron. It wasn't a hurried, embarrassed removal, but a symbolic shedding of her disguise. As the velvet fabric fell away, it revealed a slim, perfectly tailored black blazer underneath a stark contrast to the utilitarian apron. She looked directly at Richard, her eyes calm and unwavering. "And that would be me, Mr. Voss." Her voice, now stripped of its deferential waitress tone, was clear, confident, and utterly devoid of fear. Anna Martinez, intern for the district attorney's office. A collective gasp swept through the dining room. People exchanged wide-eyed glances, murmuring in disbelief. Then she added the final devastating blow, the twist that left everyone utterly speechless. Also, the daughter of the judge who signed your warrant. A polite, almost serene smile touched Anna's lips. It wasn't a triumphant smirk, but a quiet, knowing expression of justice served. "I believe you wanted me fired, Mr. Voss," she continued, her voice maintaining its steady, almost conversational tone. "Consider this my 2-second notice." The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the subtle click of one of the detectives producing a pair of handcuffs. Then, like dominoes, falling jaws dropped. A diner in a far corner, a silver-haired gentleman who had witnessed the entire spectacle unfold, started to clap. It was a single, hesitant clap at first, then another and another, until within seconds the entire room erupted. The polite, hushed atmosphere of the Velvet Laurel shattered into a cacophony of applause, cheers, and excited chatter. Phones, once lowered in shock, shot up again, now eager to capture the astonishing scene. The arrogant billionaire who had boasted he could buy justice now being cuffed by it, his face a mask of utter humiliation and dawning horror. Richard, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, stammered, his voice choked with disbelief. This is insane. You're a waitress." He clung to that label that perceived inferiority as if it could somehow negate the reality unfolding before him. Anna merely shrugged, a gesture of profound indifference to his outdated perception. "And you're a criminal, Mr. Voss." Her eyes met his, a flicker of something almost pitying in their depths. Labels change. The detectives now unhurriedly but firmly placed the handcuffs on Richard's wrists. The metallic click was barely audible over the rising clamor of the crowd, but it resonated like a bell tolling for the end of an era. The Emperor indeed had no clothes, and the waitress had just exposed him to the world. The news travels fast in a city that thrives on drama, especially when a billionaire is involved. Before Richard Voss had even been fully escorted out of the Velvet Laurel, the street outside was a maelstrom of flashing lights and frantic activity. News vans tipped off by the DA's office for maximum public impact already circled the block like vultures, their satellite dishes extended skyward, hungry for the story. Cameras clicked and whirred, capturing every excruciating detail as Richard, his face a mask of utter defeat, was ducked into the back of a squad car. His $1,000 Italian shoes, once symbols of his untouchable status, scraped ignominiously against the cheap, unforgiving pavement, a stark visual metaphor for his precipitous fall. Headline writers, already salivating, were crafting their masterpieces. Billionaire busted by barista karma serves justice, waitress takes down tycoon. The ripple effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. By sunrise the next morning, his company's stock, once a formidable titan on the market, had plummeted an astonishing 42%. It was a bloodbath on the trading floors, a mass exodus of investors fleeing faster than rats off the Titanic. His carefully constructed financial empire, built on a foundation of deceit and arrogance, began to unravel with terrifying speed. Federal agents, armed with the warrants Anna had helped secure, raided a dozen of his properties simultaneously. His opulent penthouses, his sprawling estates, his secretive corporate offices. They seized documents, hard drives, laptops, and even a priceless Picasso painting he had never bothered to declare to the tax authorities. Every hidden asset, every illicit transaction was now laid bare. Social media, the ultimate arbiter of modern justice, exploded. A short, grainy TikTok video of Anna looking utterly composed, calmly sipping a glass of water, while Richard Voss in the background futilely yanked at his handcuffs, went viral. By lunchtime, it had garnered 20 million views and was climbing. The comment sections overflowed with a torrent of schadenfreude and triumphant affirmations of cosmic balance. "Karma just cashed a check, and it's a big one," read one popular comment. "Never mess with the girl holding the coffee pot. She might be holding something else," quipped another. "This is the kind of justice I live for," declared a third. The internet had found its new hero and its new villain, and it was reveling in the spectacle. Richard Voss, the man who believed he was above it all, was now a meme, a cautionary tale, and a symbol of swift, undeniable comeuppance. His fall from grace was not just a legal matter. It was a cultural phenomenon, a satisfying testament to the enduring power of justice even when served with a side of spilled coffee. Just 2 weeks later, Anna Martinez walked into the very same hallowed courtroom where she had once interned, a nervous, hopeful law student observing the intricate dance of justice. But this time she wasn't a silent observer. This time she was the star witness for the prosecution, poised and confident, a thick portfolio of meticulously gathered evidence clutched in her hand. It contained not just the illicit financial records she had secretly photographed, but also damning audio recordings, falsified invoices detailing shell company transactions, under-the-table payment schemes to undocumented workers, and encrypted ledgers tracing millions of untaxed dollars straight to the sun-drenched, secretive banks of the Cayman Islands. Her evidence was a meticulously constructed edifice of Richard Voss's criminal empire, brick by damning brick. The judge presiding over the case, a woman of impeccable integrity, was indeed her mother. Judge Martinez, a pillar of the legal community, recused herself from the trial to avoid any appearance of bias, a testament to her unwavering commitment to justice. But as she announced her recusal, a brief, almost imperceptible flicker of profound pride crossed her face as her eyes met Anna's. It was a silent acknowledgement of her daughter's courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment to what was right. The trial lasted a mere 6 days, a whirlwind of legal arguments, witness testimonies, and the undeniable weight of Anna's evidence. Richard Voss, stripped of his power and his carefully constructed facade, sat in the defendant's chair, a shadow of his former arrogant self. The jury deliberation, a process often fraught with lengthy debate, took a remarkably swift 4 hours. The verdict, when it came, was unanimous and resounding guilty on all counts. The consequences were swift and severe. Richard Voss was ordered to forfeit all his ill-gotten assets, a staggering sum that would be used to compensate the victims of his labor violations and replenish the public coffers he had so brazenly plundered. He faced a prison sentence of up to 15 years, a stark contrast to the life of unbridled luxury he had grown accustomed to. But perhaps the cruelest blow of all, for a man whose identity was so intertwined with his wealth and status, was his immediate and permanent removal from the prestigious Forbes list of the world's wealthiest individuals. For Richard, this was a public shaming, an erasure from the very pantheon he had so desperately sought to dominate. That very same week, amidst the flurry of news reports and public accolades, a National Civil Rights Foundation, deeply impressed by Anna's unwavering integrity and her dedication to justice, awarded her a full-ride scholarship. Not just to any law school, but to any law school in the entire country. The world, it seemed, was her oyster. Her choice, made with a characteristic blend of ambition and pragmatism, was Harvard. "Why not dream bigger?" she'd said with a quiet smile to a reporter encapsulating her unstoppable spirit. Reporters, eager to capture every nuance of her extraordinary story, asked her how she felt about the billionaire who had tried so ruthlessly to crush her, to dismiss her as inconsequential. Her answer, delivered with a wisdom far beyond her years, resonated deeply. Grateful, she replied, her gaze thoughtful. "He taught me that humility isn't taught in lecture halls or found in legal texts. It's served one cup at a time. It's in the quiet dignity of work, and the understanding that true worth isn't measured by a bank account, but by how you treat others." It was a profound statement, a testament to her journey, and the powerful lessons she had learned not from textbooks, but from the crucible of real-life injustice. The Velvet Laurel, once a stage for Richard Voss's Arrogance, underwent a quiet but profound transformation in the wake of the scandal. Luis, the manager who had once been caught between a rock and a hard place, found his voice and his backbone. With Richard Voss out of the picture, he was finally free to implement the changes he'd always dreamed of. And at the forefront of this new era for the restaurant was Anna Martinez, not as a waitress, but as a highly valued consultant. Her first order of business, a complete overhaul of the staff's compensation structure. Server wages were tripled, a move that sent shockwaves of delight and relief through the entire team. The opaque and often unfair tipping system was replaced with a transparent, equitable pooling system, ensuring that every member of the service staff was fairly compensated for their hard work. The whispers of discontent were replaced by genuine smiles and a renewed sense of pride. To commemorate this new chapter and to honor the woman who had inadvertently brought about such positive change, Luis did something truly special. He commissioned a portrait of Anna, not in her waitress uniform, but in a smart professional blazer, a subtle nod to her dual identity. This portrait now hangs proudly in the Velvet Laurel's hallway of fame, a place usually reserved for black and white photographs of legendary celebrity chefs and esteemed patrons. Anna's portrait, vibrant and modern, stood as a beacon of integrity and justice, a constant reminder that true power isn't about wealth, but about character. Despite her new role, despite the scholarship to Harvard, Anna still picks up occasional shifts at the Velvet Laurel. It's not for the money, or even for the tips, which she now donates to a local legal aid fund. It's a grounding ritual, a way to remind herself of where she came from, of the struggles that forged her resilience. She moves through the dining room with the same quiet efficiency. But now there's an added layer of quiet confidence, a knowing glint in her eye. Regulars, many of whom had been present for Richard Voss's spectacular downfall, now specifically request Anna's section. They don't just want a meal, they want to be served by the Anna Martinez, the woman who took down Richard Voss. They seek her out, not for gossip, but for a moment of connection, a silent acknowledgement of her extraordinary journey. She greets them with the same warm, genuine smile she always had, attentive and professional. But now, when she presents the check, a subtle, almost imperceptible detail offers a glimpse into her future. Beneath her neat signature, she adds 3 letters, a quiet declaration of her impending triumph, J.D. It's a promise, a testament to her unwavering ambition, and a symbol of the profound transformation that began with a spilled cup of coffee. The Velvet Laurel, once a symbol of elitism, had become a testament to the idea that even in the most unexpected places justice can be served. Richard Voss, the man who once dined on foie gras and dismissed those who served him, found his new reality to be a stark, unforgiving contrast. His opulent life of private jets and exclusive dining rooms was replaced by the grim, monotonous routine of a federal prison's white-collar wing. His sentence, a solid 7 years, every minute of it, a chilling reminder of his hubris. The irony, as is often the case with karma, was deliciously brutal. His first assigned job inside the gray walls of the institution dishwasher, the very man who had screamed about a $6,000 vest being ruined by coffee, now spent his days scrubbing congealed food from metal trays, the harsh clang of stainless steel replacing the delicate clinking of crystal. He earned a paltry 43 cents an hour, a sum so infinitesimally small compared to his former wealth that it felt like a cosmic joke. The once feared tech mogul, the real estate shark, was now just another inmate stripped of his power, his status, and his dignity. His fellow inmates, with their keen sense of prison hierarchy and dark humor, quickly bestowed upon him a nickname, $6,000 Vest. It started as a whisper, then a chuckle, and soon it was a constant mocking refrain that followed him through the mess hall, the yard, and the cell block. He hated it. He loathed the reminder of his public humiliation, the symbol of his catastrophic downfall. But they kept using it, a daily, inescapable punishment, more potent than any solitary confinement. It was a verbal tattoo permanently branding him with the very arrogance that had led to his ruin. Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, the government was systematically dismantling his empire. His vast portfolio of properties, once monuments to his unchecked ambition, were auctioned off. But these sales weren't just about recouping stolen funds. They were about reinvesting in the community he had so callously exploited. One of his sprawling vacant luxury developments was repurposed and transformed into desperately needed low-income housing, providing shelter for families who had only ever seen such opulence from afar. Another of his seized estates, a grand mansion that once hosted lavish, exclusive parties, was converted into a community college scholarship hall. In a final poetic twist, it was proudly named the Martinez Annex, a permanent tribute to the woman who had dared to stand up to power and in doing so reshape the landscape of justice. Richard Voss, in his stark prison uniform washing dishes for pennies, had become an unwitting benefactor to the very people he had once scorned. The wheel of fortune had turned, and it had crushed him beneath its weight. So, what can we, the observers of this dramatic saga, take away from Anna and Richard's story? It's more than just a tale of comeuppance. It's a masterclass in modern karma delivered with precision and a side of irony. Arrogance is a down payment on humiliation. Richard Voss believed his wealth bought him immunity, a shield against consequence. He wore his arrogance like an expensive suit, oblivious to the fact that it was actually a target. The higher you build your tower of self-importance, the harder and more spectacular the fall. Humility isn't just a virtue. It's a strategic defense against life's inevitable gravitational pull. When you think you're above everyone else, you're usually just setting yourself up for a very public stumble. Never assume the person clearing your table can't clear your reputation. This is perhaps the most potent lesson. We live in a world where titles and perceived status often blind us to the true capabilities and inner lives of others. Richard saw Anna as a nameless servant, a background character in his grand narrative. He never considered that the person quietly refilling his water glass might be sharper, more resilient, and more connected than he could ever imagine. The quiet, the overlooked, the underestimated. These are often the individuals with the keenest observations, the deepest wells of strength, and sometimes the most surprising hidden agendas. Underestimate anyone at your peril, because the person you dismiss today might be the one holding the keys to your future or your downfall. Karma isn't a boomerang. It's a barista with a badge. Forget the abstract, slow-moving concept of universal balance. In the age of instant information and interconnectedness, karma has gotten an upgrade. It's no longer a gentle return of what you've put out. It's a highly efficient, often public, and sometimes spectacularly ironic force. It can arrive not as a vague cosmic consequence, but as a determined individual equipped with intelligence, integrity, and perhaps a hidden wire. It shows up in unexpected forms, in unexpected places, and often at the most inconvenient times. So, when you're tempted to treat someone poorly, remember that justice might not be a distant concept, but a very real, very present person, ready to serve you a piping hot cup of consequences. This story, this electrifying moment of justice, resonates with so many of us because we've all felt it. We've all been looked down on, dismissed, or made to feel small by someone who thought they were superior. But how did you respond? How did you rise above it? We want to hear your stories of quiet resilience, of unexpected triumphs, of moments when you defied expectations and showed them who you really were. Drop your story in the comments below. Your experience might be the espresso shot someone else needs today to fuel their own fight. And if you're hungry for more real-life karma classics, for those moments where justice is served hotter than coffee and sweeter than revenge, then hit that subscribe button and join our community. Because life, my friends, always finds a way to serve justice, and trust us, it's always worth watching. Richard Voss believed his vast fortune made him utterly untouchable, an emperor above the law. Anna Martinez, a waitress with a secret, proved that integrity, courage, and a deep understanding of justice are the only true currencies that matter. One accidental spill, one vicious insult, one moment of unchecked hubris, and an entire empire built on a foundation of deceit wobbled and then collapsed like a poorly constructed table. Next time you're tempted to treat someone as disposable, remember this story. The hand refilling your water glass might just be the one handing you a subpoena. Be kind, tip well, and maybe, just maybe, skip the $6,000 vest. Because when karma pours the coffee, a simple cotton shirt works just fine, and you'll be far less likely to regret the stain.